Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how I create these potion bottles in Procreate. Before we start, you can download the sketch layer for free in the link in the description and import that into your canvas. And then once you've got that in your canvas, we can go ahead and turn the opacity of that one all the way down and then create a new layer above that one. Then we're going to go to our actions menu and we're going to click canvas at the top here and then select drawing guide to turn it on. And then click edit drawing guide, and I'm going to click symmetry down the bottom here. And then if you grab the little blue dot thing, you can drag that symmetry line anywhere you want on the canvas to line it up anywhere. I'm going to try and get it close as I can to the middle of these bottles on the left. And just check in your layers that it says assisted on that layer that you've got selected now. Now I'm going to go to the colors panel, and I've left a link for all these colors in the description as well. I'm going to choose that very pale blue color, and I'm going to use my fine pen from my enchanted brush pack, and I'm just going to outline the bottles on the left hand side here and fill them in. You could also use the technical pen or gel pen or studio pen from the inking section in Procreate. Now we're going to move that symmetry line over to the other side. So we're going to go back to our actions menu, click edit drawing guide, and just drag that line over to the right hand side and put it roughly in the middle of those bottles on that side. And then we're going to do the same thing on the same layer and just outline those bottles. And for these straight lines, if you draw a line down and don't take your pen off the screen and then tap one finger onto the screen, it'll snap those lines into a straight position. And then just take your pen off and lift your finger and they'll be straight. Now once we have those all done, we can go and turn that drawing guide off so it's not in our way. And we can also turn off that sketch layer as well by checking the box next to it. I'm also going to turn the drawing assist off on that bottles layer. And I might make my background just a little bit darker just so it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to click on this bottles layer and it'll bring up the little menu on the side, and I'm going to check mask, which is going to create a layer mask. And if you haven't used a layer mask before, it basically uses the black and white colors, and the black will erase your artwork and then the white will bring your artwork back. So I'm going to start off using the black color, and I'm using the soft brush from my enchanted brush pack. You can also use the soft brush or airbrush or something from the airbrushing menu. I think any of those would work fine as well. And I'm just going to go with the soft brush and erase lightly some of that blue to give it that glass look. You can also turn the opacity down to help get this done as well, so it's not erasing too much. So you just want to, and you want to try and get it so you're not going all the way to the edges of the bottle. You're sort of leaving a little bit of a line around the edge that's not erased, and then you're just erasing the middle part. And if you make a mistake or you press too hard, you can always grab your white color again and then fix up that mistake. It'll bring back that blue color. And if you end up with any harsh lines in it that you want to smooth out, you can always use the smudge tool. I have it set to my blending brush from my enchanted brush pack, but you can use any blending tool that you have. And the whole bottle doesn't have to be erased exactly the same, like equally. Some parts that are more raised than others, it is actually better. It makes it look more like glass. So that's the first one done. And then we're going to move on to the one underneath, and we're going to start erasing on that one as well with the black colour, and we'll just go in and lightly erase bits of that bottle. And sometimes I find it easier to do sort of harsher lines like this and then blend them out, and then just go in with a bigger brush and fill out the larger area like this. So some parts of the bottle are almost fully erased, and then some parts are less erased, if that makes sense. Now this last bottle is going to be a little bit of a challenge bottle. It's the hardest one out of all of them to erase the little bits so that they look like glass, because there's lots of little pieces to this bottle. But just give it a go and see how you go. And don't forget, you can always use the smudge tool to blend out any harsh lines and change back to the white colour to bring back anything that you go a little bit too heavy on, or you want to bring back a little bit more of that blue colour. And that's those all done. I actually feel like I might have got a bit heavy on this erasing on this first one, so I might add a little bit more of that back in and fix that up a little bit. That looks much better. And now I'm just going to go and rename this layer. I actually had somebody come to the door while I was doing this, so I just cut it out, and so I just renamed that layer glass bottles, and I created a new layer underneath it. And I'm going to go back to my fine pen and choose the dark pink colour, and I'm going to go in and add liquid, dark pink liquid into this first bottle. So I just draw a bit of a curved line at the top there, and then go around the edge and fill it in. And then I'll just fix up the edges, and you want to leave a bit of a wall in between the liquid and the glass bottle. So don't go all the way to the edge like this with your liquid. Leave a little bit of a gap there in between the liquid and the bottle. Once you've finished that one, you can move on to the next one. I'm going to use the blue for this bottom one, and I'm just going to go along and do the same thing. A little bit of a curved line at the top, and then go around the edges, leaving that little gap in between the liquid and the bottle. And for the next one, I'm going to use the green colour, and then same thing again. And for the last one, I'm going to use this yellowy orange colour, and I'm only going to put liquid in the bottom part of the bottle. Now that all the liquid colours are in, I'm just going to rename this layer inside colours, and then I'm going to create a new layer above that one, and we're going to make it a clipping mask. So press the plus button and then click on the new layer and create clipping mask, and then we're going to change it to multiply. I'm going to choose this dark pink again. I'm just going to slide it down slightly to make it a little bit darker, and I'm going to use my soft brush. And I like to add shadow around the outside edge of the liquid, and then a little bit in the middle of the liquid as well. And I'm going to imagine that the light source is coming from the top right hand side and sort of beaming down on these glasses. So most of the shadow is going to be on the left hand side of the bottles, and most of the light is going to be hitting to the top right hand side of the bottles, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to go in with all the colours. I'm going to use blue and then the green and drag it down a little bit. I'll add these darker colours into the colour palette as well. So just randomly in the middle as well, like with this green one, that you can see there's no real method to it. A little bit later, once we start adding more stuff, you won't really notice it too much. And then onto the yellowy orange one as well. Now I'm going to create a new layer above that one, make it a clipping mask, and set the layer mode to screen. And I'm going to start with the light pink colour, and still with the soft brush, and I'm going to add in some highlights. You can kind of see now where it doesn't really matter where you put those shadows. Some of them will show through and some of them won't. And I'll grab the blue and add a little bit to the blue as well. And then I'll grab the green. And there's no real right or wrong way to add the shadows and the highlights in this, because it's liquid. It could be so random, like liquid's never the same. When you're looking at it, it can be light and dark in all different places. I'm going to create a new layer above that one and make another clipping mask. I'm going to make this one color dodge, and I'm going to go back in and grab our light pink color first. And I'm going to use my glowing spots brush from my enchanted brush pack for this to add some bubbles into the liquid. And I'm going to grab my blue and do the same to the blue and to the green. Oh, yellow first, and then we'll go green. And then I'm going to go to the adjustments menu and go to the Gaussian blur, and I'm going to blur those bubbles out just a little bit. And then I'll get my soft brush as my eraser, and I just want to erase some slightly, so some are a little bit lighter than others. And I'm going to create a new layer above that and make it a clipping mask and set it to multiply. I just want to add in some more shadows because I feel like they're not dark enough. So I'll grab this blue again, I'll make it darker. These are darker colours will be in the bottom of the palette as well. I'll add them in just a sec. But I'm just going to grab that darker colour and add a little bit more shadows into each one of these bottles. Now I'm going to create another new layer and make it a clipping mask and set the layer mode to add. And I'm going to grab the light pink colour and I'm going to use my Stardust shader brush, and I'm just going to add in a little bit of glittery highlights with this brush. It's a little bit harder to see on camera, but in person it just adds a little bit of a glittery shine to it. You can kind of see it a bit better when I zoom right in like that. So you can see when I turn it off, it just makes that little bit of extra brightness in those liquids. Now I'm going to go to our base color layer and I'm going to duplicate it and select the bottom one of those. I'm just going to rename it to Bloom. And then we're going to go to our adjustments menu and I'm going to click Bloom and drag my pen all the way across the screen to 100%. You can see up the top the percentage, and that's going to give us our like glow behind the bottles. So these are my settings at the bottom. You can make sure yours are the same as mine. I never change them, they're just always that. So I just leave it how it is. And then I'm going to go to the adjustments layer again, menu again, and then we'll go to the Gaussian blur and then we'll blur out that glow a little bit to give our bottles that nice glowy shine. And you can blur it as much as you like, depends how much glow that you want from your bottles, from your liquid in your bottles. Now I'm going to go all the way to the top of our layers and select the topmost layer and create a new layer above that one. I'm going to grab white color and my soft brush again, and we're going to add some bright highlights onto our glass, and we want it to be like a line, sort of like this. And I like to do both sides because the light is kind of shining through one side and then it kind of comes out the other side to create a bit of highlight on both kind of sides, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's technically correct, but it's what I like to do and I think it looks cool, so Now I'm going to create another new layer above everything, and I'm going to start with the light pink again, and I'm going to use my glowy sparkles brush for this one, and just add some glowy dots to each one of these bottles. Just give it that little magical vibe. Now this part is totally optional if you don't want to put like lids on your bottles. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to start with the pink layer, and I'm going to go back to my glowy spots brush, and I'm going to add a little bit of those glowy spots coming out of the opening of each of these bottles. Now I'm going to go to the adjustments menu and go to the Gaussian blur and just blur those out just a little bit. Like 3% I did, and then I'm going to go back into the adjustments and I'm going to get the chromatic abrasion, and I'm just going to drag my pen a little bit. You can see my settings at the bottom. I'm just going to drag it a little bit, and you can see that it kind of makes a rainbow effect with those dots, which I think just looks kind of cool, like the bubbles coming out of the bottles from the liquid are kind of rainbowish. This is just an extra thing that you can do if you wanted to. Totally optional. Now I'm just going to turn that layer off, and we're going to add the corks into our bottles. If you want to add corks, you can do this bit, and you can add a new layer, and I'm just going to make a brown colour, which I'll add to the colour palette as well. I'll just put it in down here, and then I'm going to go all the way down the bottom back to our sketch layer. I'm going to turn that back on to see where our corks are in our bottles. You can just draw them in if you want. You don't need to add that sketch layer back on. But I'm just going to trace over where the corks go and then fill all them in. Now we can turn that sketch layer back off and create another new layer above our corks and make it a clipping mask, and I'm going to set it to multiply. And I'm just going to add some of that onto the top, the bottom left of the corks, and blend it across a little bit to add a little bit of shadow there. And we'll create another new clipping mask layer, and I'll use this light orangish colour, and we'll add some highlight on the top right of those corks and then blend that across as well. And I'm going to merge the three of those cork layers together. Just by pinching the three of them together, we'll merge them together, and then I'm going to drag them down underneath our bottles layer, so they're behind our bottles now. And I'm going to grab the selection tool and make sure it's set to freehand at the bottom there, and I'm just going to select the part that is inside the bottle, and then go to our adjustments menu and the Gaussian blur and blur it a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the next bottle. Select it, and then the Gaussian blur, just to blur that bottom piece a little bit so it looks like it's inside of the bottle. And the same thing with our green bottle. Now I'm going to grab the eraser and with the soft brush, and I'm just very lightly going to erase just a tiny bit of the bottom of those corks. Now, if you want to add a little bit of texture to those corks, you can create a new layer above them and use a darker brown color. And I'm going to go to the Organics brushes that are in Procreate, and I'm going to choose the clay brush and make it small. And then that can add a nice bit of texture onto the corks if you don't want them like completely smooth. I feel like it gives it more of like a corky texture. I don't know. And that is our glowing magical bottles all complete. I'm just going to go in and add some colour to the backgrounds because they don't look as good on the grey. They look better if your background is like a nice colour. So I'm just going to add that in, and yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you give it a go, I would love to see it. If you want to, you can send it to me or you can tag me in it on Instagram. Yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys do. If you want to stick around, I'm just going to go over drawing like a little drink me tag for one of the bottles if you want to watch that, or yeah, have fun making your own bottles.